I never thought love could turn into a weapon until the man I trusted the most used it to destroy me. Damien and I had built everything together. At least, that's what I believed. We started with nothing but dreams and late-night promises whispered in the dark. He was my husband, my partner, my best friend. Until one day, he wasn't. The day he walked away, he didn't just leave me, he left me drowning in debts, in heartbreak, in the kind of betrayal that makes your soul bleed. "I have to do this, Elara," he had said, his voice cold, his eyes already somewhere else. "You'll understand one day." But I didn't understand. Not when I came home to eviction notices. Not when our joint bank account was drained to nothing. Not when I realized he had left me for someone richer, someone who could give him the life he thought he deserved. I was nothing to him. A stepping stone, a chapter he closed without a second thought. But here's the thing about being discarded: you learn how to rebuild. And I didn't just rebuild. I rose. Now, 5 years later, I'm the billionaire who owns everything he ever wanted. And today? Today, he's coming to me for a job. Love, they say, is supposed to be a partnership. Two people building a future together, holding each other up when the world tries to knock them down. That's what I believed when I married Damien. That's what I thought we had. For 5 years, I was his biggest supporter, his confidant, the woman who stood by him when he had nothing but a dream and empty pockets. We started from scratch, tiny apartment, secondhand furniture, and late-night ramen dinners because that was all we could afford. But it never mattered, because we had each other. Or so I thought. Damien was magnetic. He could walk into any room and make people believe in him. His confidence was infectious, his ambition endless. And I loved him for it. I worked 2 jobs while he chased his dream of becoming a top-tier investment broker. I skipped meals so we could afford his business suits, cheered him on when he landed his first big client, and held him at night when the stress got too much. I believed in him more than I believed in myself. But looking back, I see the signs. The moments I ignored because I thought love meant sacrifice. Like the way he stopped saying we and started saying I, or how. When his first big commission check came in, he didn't take me out to celebrate, he took his boss to an expensive dinner instead. I convinced myself it was normal. That this was part of the process. That one day, it would be our turn. But our turn never came. Because Damien wasn't building our future. He was building his own. And I was just the woman he was planning to leave behind. It started with small things. A shift so subtle I almost didn't notice it until I did. Damien had always been ambitious, but suddenly, ambition turned into obsession. Late nights at the office became routine. The man who once held me close every night now slept with his back turned, phone clutched in his hand. He was distant, cold, preoccupied. At first I told myself it was stressful. He was working so hard to build our future, wasn't that what he always said? I tried to be understanding. I didn't complain when he missed dinner 3 nights in a row. I ignored the growing distance between us, convincing myself that this was just a rough patch. Then, one night, I found the receipt. I was doing laundry, a mindless habit after years of living together. His suit pocket had a crumpled paper inside an expensive dinner at a 5-star restaurant. 2 people. A bottle of the finest champagne. A night I spent alone, waiting for him to come home. My heart thudded in my chest as I stared at the slip of paper, my fingers trembling. Who was he with? I told myself there had to be an explanation. A client, maybe. A business dinner. Something innocent. But deep down, I knew better. That same night, as Damien slept soundly beside me, his phone buzzed. A single message flashed on the screen, illuminating the darkness of our bedroom. "I can't wait to see you again. Last night was perfect." Read. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. My hands turned ice cold, my body frozen in place. My mind screamed at me to look away, to pretend I hadn't seen it. But I couldn't. Because in that moment, my world shattered. I couldn't sleep that night. The message kept replaying in my mind, each word a dagger twisting deeper into my heart. "I can't wait to see you again. Last night was perfect." Read. Who was she? How long has this been going on? Has everything between us been a lie? I turned onto my side, watching Damien as he slept peacefully, completely unaware that my entire world had just crumbled. I wanted to shake him awake, to shove the phone in his face and demand the truth. But a part of me hesitated. What if there was an explanation? What if I was overreacting? No. My gut told me the truth, even if my heart didn't want to believe it. The fancy dinners, the late nights, the way he had slowly stopped looking at me like I was his world, this wasn't a misunderstanding. I swallowed the lump in my throat and slipped out of bed, taking his phone with me. Hands shaking, I unlocked it. My stomach twisted when I saw how easily my fingers moved over the screen, muscle memory guiding me through his passcode. I scrolled through his messages, each one a nail in the coffin of our marriage. Her name was Victoria, and she wasn't just anyone, she was his boss's daughter. My breaths came in short gasps as I read the texts, flirty messages, inside jokes, plans for the weekend, pictures. A perfect little world I had no part in. My hands trembled so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I pressed it to my chest, trying to steady myself. You'll understand one day, Elara. Now, I did. Damien wasn't just cheating. He was trading up. He had found someone with money, with connections, with power. And I was just the woman who had held him together until he could afford to leave me behind. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg Damien for the truth because I already knew it. Instead, I was going to find out just how deep this betrayal ran. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed him. Damien left the house that morning, dressed in his best suit, smelling like expensive cologne one I hadn't smelled on him in months. I stayed a few cars behind, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched him pull into the parking lot of a luxurious penthouse complex. I knew this place. Victoria lived here. I parked down the street and watched as he stepped out of the car, checking his reflection in the window before heading inside like he belonged there. I should have turned back. I should have walked away, but I didn't. Instead, I followed. I slipped in behind a delivery guy, keeping my head down as I made my way to the elevator. My pulse pounded with every floor that passed. Finally, I reached the penthouse. The door was slightly ajar. Voices drifted from inside. I stepped closer, my body pressed against the wall, listening. We don't have to wait much longer. Damien's voice was smooth, confident, so different from the man I used to know. She's still clueless. A few more weeks, and I'll have everything set up. And the money? Victoria's voice was soft, sultry. She won't see a dime. I've handled it. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. It wasn't just an affair. It was a setup. Damien wasn't just leaving me, he was making sure I had nothing when he did. I don't remember leaving the penthouse. One second, I was standing there, my entire world shattering. And the next, I was back in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to scream, to cry, to storm back in there and tear Damien apart, but I didn't, because I had a better idea. That night, I waited for him at home, sitting calmly at the dining table with a glass of wine in my hand. My heart pounded as I heard the front door open, his footsteps echoing through the house. Hey, babe, he called casually, like he hadn't just spent the day plotting my financial ruin with another woman. Long day. I'm exhausted. I took a sip of wine, watching as he loosened his tie and walked toward me. Lucky for you, I made dinner, I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the rage simmering beneath the surface. Damien raised an eyebrow, surprised. Wow, what's the occasion? I smiled. Us. For the first time in a long time, he actually looked at me. Really looked at me. Maybe, in that moment, some small part of him remembered who I was, the woman who had built him, supported him, loved him when he had nothing. But it was too late for that. I waited until we were halfway through dinner before I spoke. Victoria has a nice place, I said, stabbing my fork into a piece of steak. Damien froze. The color drained from his face so fast it was almost amusing. "What?" he said, forcing a laugh. "Who's Victoria?" I set my fork down and leaned forward. "Don't insult my intelligence, Damien." Silence. Then, slowly, he poured out his glass and sat back. "Okay," he said, his voice calmer than I expected. "So you know." I clenched my fists under the table. "I know everything. The affair, the money, how you plan to leave me with nothing." Damien sighed, rubbing his temples. "Elara, listen. This isn't personal. It's just business. Just business." I felt something inside me snap. "I gave you everything," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I worked 2 jobs to support you. I sacrificed for you. And you call this business?" He had the audacity to look guilty. "Elara, save it." I cut him off. "You think you're so smart, don't you? That you could play me like a fool?" Damien ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. "Look, I never wanted to hurt you, but this is how the world works. You have to be ruthless to get ahead. Victoria's father, he's powerful. He can open doors for me that you never could." I felt my stomach twist. He never could. That was it. That was the moment I realized Damien had never seen me as his partner. I was just a stepping stone. I took a deep breath, forcing my emotions down. I couldn't afford to break. Not yet. "You're right," I said, nodding slowly. "The world is ruthless." Damien's shoulders relaxed slightly. "I'm glad you understand." I smiled. He had no idea. Because while Damien was busy planning my downfall, I had been planning something of my own. And he was about to learn exactly how ruthless I could be. Damien thought he had won. He thought I would break down, beg him to stay, and cry over what he had done to me. He had no idea who he was dealing with. The next morning, I left before he woke up. I had no intention of arguing, no desire to hear more of his justifications. I had work to do. For years, I had let Damien believe I was just his support system, a woman in the background of his success. What he didn't realize was that while he had been chasing his fortune, I had been quietly building my own. I had worked just as hard as he had, harder. I had connections too. Friends in places he had never bothered to notice. And unlike him, I didn't believe in burning bridges. By the time Damien realized something was wrong, it was already too late. That afternoon, his bank accounts were frozen. The apartment? No longer his. The investment firm where he had built his career? Under investigation. Victoria's father? Oh, he was furious. Because the same woman Damien had tried to discard had sent him undeniable proof that his precious daughter was involved in a fraud scheme with Damien right at the center of it. I stood outside the firm's building as security escorted Damien out, his face pale, his expensive suit wrinkled, his confidence shattered. When his eyes met mine, there was something in them I had never seen before. Fear. He stormed toward me. "You, what the hell did you do?" I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "Me? Nothing. I just made sure the right people saw the truth." Damien's jaw clenched. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "I'll fix this. You have no idea who you're messing with." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear me. "No, Damien. You had no idea who you were messing with." For the first time, he was speechless. I smiled. "Good luck, though. You're going to need it." And with that, I turned and walked away, leaving Damien to watch as his world crumbled just like he had planned to do to mine.